Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in again. I am Kaylee Batesman, the Content Director at She Can Code, and today we are going to be discussing InsurTech. Now, according to a recent report conducted by PwC, there is around 50 billion of potential revenue from disruption in insurance. So with so much disruption and areas for growth, what opportunities are available for women in InsurTech? Well, we know someone with the answer to that question. It's my wonderful guest for today, Janthana Kaenprakhamroy, the CEO of Tapoly. Welcome, Janthana.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So you have a lot of experience in this area. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background to begin with?
Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Janthana Kaenprakhamroy, and I'm one of the co-founder at Tapoly. We provide technology solutions for insurance industry. So we are, a typical InsurTech basically. And I've got my background in investment bank. I was trained as a chartered accountant to start. Roughly about 6 years ago, I discovered a market gap where I was one of the insurance customer, trying to find, like kind of gap insurance for my Airbnb letting, which in those days didn't exist. So, like from my discovery, I decided to set up Tapoly to serve the alternative distributions and non-traditional market.
Oh, wow. So you didn't work in insurance, and it was because you were a customer and you noticed that there was a need there.
Correct. Yes.
Oh, that is interesting. So for those of us that don't know, can you explain what exactly is InsurTech?
Yes. InsurTech derived from technology for insurance or insurance technology. And that could mean anything from, like kind of standard API on cloud-based to, AI-enabled solution. Many InsurTech either focus on, certain part of the process. Like, for example, you can have InsurTech that cover claims, underwriting specifically, or distributions. And then you got, kind of InsurTech that cover pure technology that could do end-to-end, that could cover end-to-end process. And Tapoly is basically, we've got two value propositions. Part of what we do is pure tech, so we provide end-to-end technology solution, and the other part we tackle the distribution, where we provide MGA service, and we basically offer our own product range to customer, backed by some of the insurance partner that we have relationship with.
And so you must have seen quite a few changes though, especially recently with COVID and flexible working, and there was quite a change in the workforce as well, and people starting their own businesses. Where do you see the sector progressing in the future?
Well, I think, like from the business development perspective, I think there will be emerging risk that require specific or bespoke products for. And then, on the other side, the technology side, I think the all the emerging technology today will just be continue and progress, because at the end of the day, we are at the beginning of the innovations stage in insurance. So a lot of us are now aware of the needs, and we are aware of the technology out there, but this is now where we have to implement, and that may take a little bit of time. But I think in the next coming year, collaborations would be the number ones in everyone's agenda. And the reason for that is because it's essentially the key to building an ecosystem which would help the insurance industry. It would solve like our current climate. Right now, insurance is being hardly hit by COVID, Brexit, and all the instability in the world, and that means that our ability to make money going to be limited, as well as the customer acquisition cost is rising, and therefore, our ability to be able to create the ecosystem to support and reduce our claim costs, reduce our operating costs, make it more efficient, like within the group will help. So it's all about collaborations, and this have like impact on the technology that we will build. The technology will have to be built so that it could be easily integrate and collaborate. Similarly for the product development side, the product development and the distributions have to go, and it had to be focused on the ecosystems. So that's why the sharing and the gig economy is the great market for these emerging products.
Yes, and the gig economy as well is something that we started to hear more and more about with changes in the workforce and COVID, obviously, and the changes that occurred because of that. You mentioned at the start that you didn't work in insurance, which is so interesting to me, because I hear a lot about career transitions and trying to get more ladies into the tech sector that come from completely different backgrounds. We sometimes I hear stories about ladies that were biologists and pilots and teachers, and there is always that thought that you have to be technical to go into tech, and you have to have a computer science degree to even want to venture over into the industry. Do you need to be technical for a career in InsurTech? Because from your background, it just sounds like you saw a customer need, and you went for it.
Yes. Not at all. You don't have to be tech, but it's depending on your career inspirations of where you want to be in the organizations. Obviously, if your inspiration is to be, IT developer or data science, you may have, to pick up some coding skills. But if you just want to be in, admin role, finance, or even sales or marketing, you would need less of a tech skills, but more of the other skills. You can separate to go into tech and working for technology company is two separate things, because if you really want to go into like tech job, then obviously you need tech skills. But if you just want to work for a technology company, you can, depending on the role, get the job, and you can make that, transitions. And it's a lot easier to work for a startups than a well-established company, because if you work for a well-established company, they would require you to have some basics experience to get the job. And in most cases, they would require more than experience to, get a high, a senior role within the company.
Yes, and obviously there is a whole conversation there as well around the difference between working at a startup and an established company, and exactly right what you just said about everything that you will learn at a startup as well, and the opportunities presented to you. What opportunities do you think the InsurTech industry presents to women?
Yes, I think, like with the EAI initiative being in the center of everyone's agenda, thanks to the sustainability goals. So that means that there are more initiative within the industry to promote women, to recruit, promote women. As you can already see, like we've got fantastic awards dedicated to women. We've got networking forum dedicated to diversity within the industry. So everything is moving forward from the kind of diversity and inclusion side. There's certainly, like a lot of focuses now to bring new people into the insurance industry, because, and I'm sure that, like recruiting diversity into the organization has now become, like a part of the KPI, which means that it will be tracked, it will be measured, and we can even penalize those organizations that fall behind. So this is like fantastic opportunities for women to now, starting to go into technical role or tech companies if they don't already in this position.
Yeah. Did you find any pushback yourself when you entered the industry? Was, what was your experience when you got started? I suppose not just as a woman, but also as an entrepreneur, stepping out there and launching a business.
Yeah, I think pushback come from not just insurance industry, any industry that need change. Even, if you look at ourselves, if you have to change your routine, it takes such a long time to change your routine, right? And most of the time we would tell ourselves that we don't need to change because we're good enough the way we are. And that's exactly what happened with big organizations as well, that require so many stakeholders buy in order to make, like kind of marginal changes. And that's what you see. Obviously, like any well-established and heavily regulated industry, changes will come gradually and slowly. And like we know this because when you wanted to have when you work with insurance company, you know that like from the time that they decide to start a project and when they execute could take several months. So InsurTech that are in insurance industry have to take that into account. So if you come from other industry, you may not have seen, or you may not be aware of the length of time that it would take for you to get a project and then complete them. And that has really kind of major impact on how we calculate our budget, how we, how much money we need to raise. Basically, whatever you need to raise in money to start up a business, maybe, like make sure that you raise 3-4 times that, because that's what you need in order to, to be able to survive in insurance, because the running cost per project is going to be much longer, and you have to be able to survive, at the kind of startup stage for longer. And this is something that I didn't know until I get into this.
Oh, that is interesting. And in terms of skills, obviously we mentioned that you don't have to have technical skills, but is there anything that you wish you had known before you started, or any valuable insight that you can give us about the type of skills that you might need to come into the industry?
Insurance as an industry is pretty much circle around network. It's all about networking, so your interpersonal skill become crucial. And more importantly, your ability to, kind of connect with everyone in the industry and make friends. That's very important, even more important than, our technical skill to start. And so I think that's something that we also need to be able to do quite quickly, which is, working out who is key stakeholder in the insurance industry, who can we network with, and how we get business, because it's all about trust. I mean, insurance industry is all about trust, and we trust people that we know. And therefore, there is a lot more focuses around the networking skills and people skills than the technical skills.
Ah, I see. And I suppose that has changed for a lot of people as well, hasn't it? Networking, or particularly during COVID, that changed for a lot of us, actually. I remember always being at networking events, in-person events, and then obviously that changed for so many of us because of COVID. And like you say, it's still incredibly important to make those networks when you're getting started in a new area. Is that something that happened with yourself? Did you knew people in the industry that could help you there?
When we first started, we didn't know that many people, to be honest. There was
quite a wild decision from what you're saying about, just seeing a gap in the market. And
yes, I took calculated risk when I first started. I know that, I knew what I need to do. and I knew what I must have at the time, and that's all I, have to start up. For example, I knew that I need to have co-founder who would need to bring the technology skills into the business. I knew that I need to upskill. I knew that I need to build network, and to the point that people, and also build my brand. It was very important. I think the first 12 months, I was so focused on building my brand, because I know that people will question my skills, insurance skill. People will question who I am because they haven't seen or they don't know who I am. So building, brand and having industry recognition was my key number one in the first kind of, 12 to 18 months. And building skills, of course, we need a bit of help. We went through a couple of accelerator programs that were targeted or specific to insurance industry. And through that process, we were able to network with high profile and thought leader in the industry. And from there, we built ourselves to become one. So it sounds simple, but it's extremely, extremely difficult to
Yes, yeah, I can imagine.
Yes, and today, of course, is another story. So I never thought that I could reach here in this lifetime, but you know what? I'm here. So
yes. And I mean, obviously you touched upon it there, but what do you love about your role within the industry?
Wow, I think there's two things that I love. First of all is the fact that we are in the forefront of implementing and making changes. We love it. I love it as a person. I like, my value is to add value, and I felt like I feel like I add value. And the other part is people. Insurance people are fantastic. This is like a decent, trustworthy people in the industry, and they all have very similar value, and they all have very similar ethic. I love it. And I think, as an industry, I love the opportunity that were given to me. I love the fact that I'm needed. I love the fact that, I can add so much value in this business that I am in. And more importantly, all my colleagues and people that I know, they are fantastic, fantastic people.
And you're the CEO of Tapoly, as we know. Do you have any advice for other women looking to get into leadership roles?
I think, they just need to be adding value. I truly believe that we have all the mechanisms, and we have all of the support from the government, from the company, from HR, to promote more women. But we just need to showcase more women, and we need to be very focused on our value added to the company, so that it make it easier for the company to justify having women at leadership role. Yeah, it's all about us, ticking all the boxes, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So we cannot. I think obviously the whole promoting women initiative is fantastic. It's give us the opportunity, but we have to take the initiative.
Yes. Yeah.
Up to us.
Yeah. And have you found, in your experience, sometimes women, they say, they feel like they have to prove themselves more. Is that something that you have found?
Certainly, there are some degree of barrier for entrance in insurance. And I think as a woman, we are not starting at zero. But I do feel that we're starting at minus. So when we talk to investors, for example, we always get questions that would lead to negative response. So it's the fear factor question, what if question, as opposed to, is there an opportunity out there? And like any, kind of startup companies, we are projecting the future. It's all about future opportunity. And it's not always, reflect your current state of the business.
I actually, you just mentioned investment there, which it would be very interesting for a lot of our listeners. And I have heard that before, obviously, about women trying to gain investment to launch a business. As you mentioned, we do hear negative stories sometimes about ladies struggling to secure the funding they need, and there are some quite famous stories, obviously, of ladies that struggled to secure investment and went on to make million-dollar businesses and sell them. How was that experience for yourself?
It was not easy, obviously, to raise money. I don't know whether this is because I'm a woman, or is it because a startup. But certainly in the last 2 years, there has been a challenge for any startup in insurance to raise money, and for very obvious reasons. Obviously, during COVID, financial or fintech, InsurTech were one of the top industry that have one of the highest death rate. I mean, death rate as in, for every startup that, for every new 100 startup, 78% of startup dies, compared to pre-COVID, which is about 48% roughly. So you can imagine that the number of death rate is nearly double. And therefore, I could see, a lot of investment are not going to be in that investing in early stage company, because you don't know whether your investment will last beyond the seed round or not. So there has certainly been, a kind of shift in investing more in a more later stage. And therefore, a lot of startup in insurance space that are looking to raise money right now will be in similar positions. But as a woman, of course, there's even less investment. If, let's say that no investment in insurance for InsurTech, then female founder who only receive a fraction of the investment will be in an even more difficult situation. Yes, yeah, I can imagine.
And obviously, to end our program today, do you have any words of wisdom for our listeners on whether they are thinking about starting a career in InsurTech, or just launching their own business as well? Do you have any advice that you would like to offer?
For those who are outside insurance industry and want to get into insurance, I would say just do. Apply for a job and make sure you upskill, because you're going to need it for the role in insurance. Even as a basic understanding of the insurance industry, be able to kind of work out where you can add value and how and justify your transition. I think you should be able to get a job. Now, for female founder out there who wanted to get into InsurTech, make sure that you raise a lot of money, because you're going to need it. And it's not what you expect. It's not like, like a traditional 3 months and you can get the project up. 3 months is to develop, but then, you have to factor in other slack, like discussions, waiting for information, that sort of thing could take up to, like a year or 18 months before you see the project completed and delivered. So it's depend on the size of the project, of course, but generally, it's everything takes longer when you do a project in insurance space.
Thank you so much, Janthana, for talking to us today and sharing your valuable insights. And to everybody listening, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.
Thank you so much.